Hello again, and welcome to our Gems of the Alshich. It is the Seder of Vaytze, and the Seder starts, with very dramatic, one of the most dramatic and mysterious pieces of the whole Torah, when Yaakov Avinu, who we talked about last week, is leaving his brother behind who wants to kill him, doing what his mother and father have told him to do, to go and get himself a bride, go and find a wife. It's a perfect one for him, called Rachel. Of course, by mentioning that leads us to the next exciting bit of the Seder, which is when the wife that he works for and wants, and because he's a prophet, identifies as the other half of his soul, is not the wife that he ends up with, or appears not to be, because Lavan is a trickster and a cheat, and he gives Leah as a wife. He wakes up in the morning to find that he's married the wrong woman. So it's a very complicated piece of Torah. But the whole thing is high drama. And in the middle of that, from the dramatic beginning when he goes to sleep on the place which was offered as a sacrifice, he sees him as a miraculous or a prophetic ladder going to heaven, angels going up and down on the ladders, 4 angels, and he's had a glimpse of the future. There's a little incident which appears here, which is very, very strange. So if you are in possession of your art scroll, turn to chapter 29. Now let's remember one of the basic principles of the Alshich. Nothing's extra in the Torah. Remember, right at the beginning when we started this series, I said, and it sounded flippant, but I was being very serious, God's good at Hebrew. When he dictated this book to Moshe Rabbeinu to write down, he didn't make mistakes. There's no grammatical errors. There's no extra words. And if it's in the masculine when it should be in the feminine, or the past tense when it should be in the present tense, we've got to say why. But here's not just a piece which seemingly is got a grammatical error or a typo. Here's a whole thing which seems to be utterly superfluous. Let me read this superfluous piece to you and see if we can find out if it's really not superfluous after all. So again, those who've got the art scrolls on page 146. If you're a purist, it's chapter 29 in the Parshas of Vaytze, or 29 of the book of Parshas, and it starts on verse 1, and it says, Vayiso Yaakov Raglov, and Yaakov lifted up his feet. Strange words, but we won't have time for that this week. Vayelech Atza B'nei Kedem, and he goes to the B'nei Kedem. V'yar, to the land of the B'nei Kedem, V'yar hine be'er b'sodei, and there is a well in the middle of the field. V'nei sham shlosha edritzayin. And by that well, there were 3 flocks of sheep with 3 shepherds, I suppose, or 3 groups of shepherds. Vaytze aleha, and they were camped or crouched by this well in the middle of the field. And why were they crouched there and sort of like doing nothing? Because mina beraho yashka adorim, because that's where they drew water to water their flocks. And there's a great big rock on top of this well, blocking it off, like a stopper in a bottle. When there's also Shamakoladrim, and when all the flocks and all the shepherds gathered there, the Golazeb, they pushed that rock away, me alpe there from on top of the well, the Hishkas at sign, and they watered the flock. The Shivu es haevan elpe there, and they put the rock back like a stopper on top of the well, Lemakaima in its place. Very interesting. But what's it teaching us? Remember, the Torah's only there to teach us stuff. V'yam lahem Yaakov. So Yaakov addressed these shepherds, that's the original 3, I suppose, and he says to them, Acha, my brothers, me'ain atem, where are you from? V'yam mechoran anachron, come from a place called Choran. V'yam lahem, he says, Yadatem is Lavan? Do you know Lavan? Of course, his future father-in-law and his uncle, and the father of the woman that he wants to marry, both women that he ends up married to. And so, do you know that fellow Lavan ben Nochar? V'yomer Yudalef, we know him. But Yomer Lahem, he says, Shalom Lai, is peace his? Is peace his? Is he getting on, perhaps? You can translate that as, how's he doing? But Yomer Shalom, yes, Shalom, V'hine Rachel bito bo imatzayin. And Rachel, his daughter, the woman that the Yaakov has been sent to marry, is coming. V'yomer oid hayom godels. He says, oh well, the day is very long. It's a long day. Lo is self with meekness. No, it's no time to hang about. Hishka hatzayim, why don't you water the flocks and go on your way? We can't until all the guys arrive, all the people arrive, so there's enough strength between all of us to roll the rock away. So we can water the flocks. Then Medabra Ima Rochel, Bo Ima Tzain, Asher Lo Abiho, Ki Royaho. And along came Rochel, and she was a shepherdess with her father's flock. Vayikasher Ro Yaakov es Rochel bas Lovan Aki Imoy be'es Tzain Lovan Aki Imoy Yigash Yaakov Yagel es Evan Me'al Pia Be'er. And when he saw her, he gets up and he rolls the rock away. Now the next bit is the conversation between Yaakov and Rochel, which is interesting in its own right. The Gemara in Megillah Daf Yudalet says he actually said to her, "Marry me," which is a very interesting opening line in a conversation between a man and a woman who meet for the first time. I don't know if you've ever been on a date with the purpose of marriage as a possibility in the background, but it's not a good opening line to say, "Will you marry me?" But that's maybe for another share. The question is, what's this got to do, if you're from England, what's this got to do with the price of cheese? Or if you're South African, what's this got to do with a bar of soap, I think they say? South Africans say a bar of soap. What's this got to do with anything? Look, if there are extra letters, extra words available in the story to tell me something, I would like to hear a lot more about Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov's lives, what they did, how they interacted. Let me get a feel of the people, but say he was walking along the road, and guess what? There was a field, and in the field there were some shepherds, and then some sheep, and there was a rock. Who cares? But if it's in the Torah, it can't be a question of who cares. It's going to be telling us something, and we can't ignore what it's telling us. So you should know the Rambam says that there are different types of prophecy. Most prophets have prophecy when they go to sleep at night, and the prophecy comes to them in the form of a dream. Some prophets have a prophecy just for them, a prophecy to share with somebody else, to share with the whole city, or share with the whole world. Moshe Rabbeinu was different. He's awake when Hashem speaks to him. There are different forms of prophecy. But there's one form of prophecy which is things that happen to them in their life. A prophet in their high spiritual level will realize that it's a message from Hashem. It's not accidental, it's not coincidental. Hashem's sending them a message. What's the message here? So let's look at the story again, and let's look at it through the eyes of the Alshich. So we're in chapter 29, and it said the following thing. Yaakov's on his journey. He was going towards the east. And he sees a well in the field. Now the well, says the Alshich, he understood prophetically that what this well was the place of the Beis Hamikdash. It symbolized the place of the Beis Hamikdash because that was the wellspring from which Torah and spirituality came to the world. It came down in a straight line from heaven. It's the place where heaven and earth touch, kiss, just brush together. It's a place of the most direct contact. And from there it spreads out to the world. It's the wellspring of the world, if you like. So the prophetic symbolism which Yaakov would understand was that there was a be'er besode, behine shom shlosha edritzain, and there were 3 flocks of sheep. But he understood that these 3 shepherds symbolized, says the Alshich, the Kohanim, the Levim, and the Israelim, the 3 constituent parts of the Jewish people: the priests, the Levites, and the general people. And there, Shosha Edritzain, because during very often in Tanakh, as you can look into our Bible, you'll see that the Jewish people are often likened to a flock. Ravtzim Alehem were crouched down there. Ki mina be'er ha'ishka adorim, because from that flock, then from that well, rather, the flocks, that's the Jewish people, would be watered. They would, in other words, be spiritually uplifted. They would drink the water of the Torah. Well, Evan Gadol al Pi Haber, and there was a great big rock on top of that well. The goal is Evan, and the people, all the shepherds, all gathered there and rolled it away. The Hishkas sign watered the flow, so Shiva said Evan al Piper, and they pulled the rock back. Now, the Alshich says that notice in the first case it was a big rock, and the second time it was a little rock. So there was a rock, there was a place, Jerusalem. It's in the field. That's a symbol. A field is a euphemism in Hebrew for a city. That city is Jerusalem. And there was a well in it. That was the Beis Hamikdash. But then there was a big rock on top of it. It was destroyed. The first Beis Hamikdash is being told is going to be destroyed because of a big rock. A rock is a symbol for the Vaytze. There was something, a big rock which covered the heart of the Jewish people, and that was the terrible avera of Avodah Zorah, which was so seductive and inescapable for the Jews at the time of the first Beis Hamikdash. They got the first Beis Hamikdash destroyed. But then they come back, second Beis Hamikdash. And they come back and they roll that big rock from on top of the Beis Hamikdash. If you remember that the rabbis tell us at the time of the return, the Sanhedrin prayed to God that the nature, the real nature, the powerful nature of Avodah Zarah should be removed from the world. And that's why the big rock's removed. But there's going to be destruction of the second temple. But then they put the rock back again. It doesn't say it's a big rock. Because in comparison and control, and if you compare the sin of Avodah Zarah, the seductiveness of that, to what caused the second Beis Hamikdash to be destroyed, which is Sinas Skinam, it wasn't as big a thing, but it was enough to destroy us anyway. Then, the Alshich says, Yaakov says to the men who are there the following thing. He says, V'yom Alehem Yaakov Acha, my brothers, Ma'ain Atem, where are you coming from? Prophetically, what it means, he said to them, what's caused this? They said, which they did say, this actually happened, but you understood something behind that. Mechoran, we come from a place called Charan. But Charan in Hebrew also means anger. We came from a place of hatred and anger towards one another. That's what happened at the time of the second Beis Hamikdash. V'yomer lahem yadatem es Lovan. Do you know Lovan? Now, Lovan was his future father-in-law, but Lovan also means white in Hebrew. And that's why there's a verse which says famously, if your sins are as red as scarlet, I will make them as white as snow. And to which he says to them, he's saying, do you know what can cure this problem? That's what it means, what will purify, will make it white again. So he says, he says, we know, but Shalom is peace his, Shalom? Peace? Shalom? Rachel, his daughter, is coming with the flock. Then after that, he says, this is not a time to hang about. Get on with it. And they say, we can't. We are not able to do this. Or they felt they weren't able to do this. I was just learning Mikta Maleo with my granddaughter in Yerushalayim today by Skype. And Rabbi Dessa says quite clearly, when a person feels they can't do it, what they usually mean is they don't want to do it. Rachel, his daughter, is coming. We all know the story that Rachel, Himenu, she will be, and is the one who prays for our return to Eretz Israel and the end of the exile. He's saying, don't wait for that. And that's when he says to them, the day v'yom ha'oid hayom godel will be a long time. If you're waiting for that, if you're waiting for Rachel's intervention to end this golus, you're talking a long time, hundreds of years, 500 years, 1,000 years, millennia. Bloody exile, culminating in a Holocaust. You want to wait for that? And they don't do it. They wait for Rachel. It was an insight into the future. We don't have that today. Never make the mistake of seeing events in your life and assuming that those events are prophetic, a special message from you, from God. A prophet can see it. You can't see it. So it's interesting when the Rambam cites the examples of all the types of prophecy and how prophecy works. He misses out events that happen in your life could have prophetic significance and symbolism for you. Nobody can interpret that anymore. But for Yaakov, who's a prophet, he was given a glimpse of what could happen to his people if they feel that they can't end this exile. And he says, you're wrong. You can end the exile. When a person says we don't want to end the exile, or we don't want to make what is beyond us, it generally means we don't want to make the effort. Yaakov said, Hashem shows him, if you made the effort, you can. Good job.